We have a responsibility to invest in those areas that will have the biggest impact in our future. And that's especially true when it comes to education.
We've been spending more every decade on public education, with no return on student achievement. Over the last 40 years, scores on the National Assessment of Educational Progress have been flat at the end of high school. And yet spending keeps going up. Even after adjusting for inflation, we spend 196% more per student every year for the same results or worse. We've heard a lot of talk about crumbling buildings, but we're spending more than we ever have. Adjusted for inflation, per student spending on facilities has increased more than 150% over the last 2 decades, and instructional spending has increased over 30%. One huge cost driver is an explosion of public school employees. In less than 2 decades, the number of teachers per student has increased 11%, and the total number of employees per student increased 20%. With all of this spending, it's no surprise that a larger and larger share of resources at the state and local level is devoted to K-12 public education. Over the last 2 decades, the financial burden has increased 75% at the local level, and over 90% at the state. This public school spending binge hasn't increased achievement, but it is crushing state and local governments that pay for most of the bill. Medicaid is often fingered as a state budget buster, but it accounts for just 15% of every state and local tax dollar raised. In contrast, nearly 50% of every state and local tax dollar goes to K-12 public education. It's past time for a change.